Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. I don't know why I have to bug out my eyes when I say that, but probably not necessary and not helpful to my point. The early chatters are in. How you guys doing? Good to see you all already here and talking about interesting things as usual. So I had to refresh my browser just to get free up some memory. But a very interesting comment from David Cardill. Oh my God, hold on. David Cardill coming with some very interesting things in the chat early, saying something about the fact that there hasn't been enough time for humans to evolve. So are you suggesting that we are alien creatures or we are from somewhere else in the galaxy? I think maybe you are. Interesting subject. I don't know if we have the time to get into that, but and then David Cardill again with another very interesting comment about Clintery Hillen, we know who we're talking about, and somebody at the pizza gate with your pizza, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm glad that no, you don't think we're not aliens. So what do you think? So again, I'm sorry I have to say this again. As soon as I started the live stream, we had about 45 people in the stream, going on 50. And YouTube knocked it all the way back down into the 20s and knocked it down into the 30s. They're just playing around. I don't know what they're doing, but YouTube is very, very interested in making sure that my channel stays as small as possible. I'm really getting very frustrated by it. I've been meaning I need to talk to Rockfin and see if we can do live streams on Rockfin. At least maybe a couple times a week, just to see how that goes over there, because YouTube is absolutely killing me. Well, David, I don't know. You lost me there talking about consciousness as energy. Energy can be created or destroyed. I don't know if that has to do with the question of whether or not we're aliens, but maybe a discussion for the comment section. I don't know. Pizza Noise Gate. Yes. I've got the new Pizza Noise Gate pedal for my rig, bro. It's actually something that I want to discuss. And the reason why I found it interesting that you mentioned that is because I don't know if we're necessarily going to get to it in this video, but it's something that I really want to discuss. Because it's real and it's heavy. And you kind of actually have to really understand it. You know, once you understand that that's something, I don't know what. When you understand that something that disgusting is going on, you know, it really changes your whole view of everything. So I don't know if we're going to get to it in this discussion, but in this video. Osama says we need a second party. But yeah, go figure, Hadvalmer. All right, David, I'm looking forward to it. If you could give me a Cliff Notes version, because I know that really sucks, but I I have so many things I'm juggling in my day that if somebody sends me a small book to read, a novella or whatever, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Even even videos, it's like if the video it's got to be super compelling for me to watch it. if it's longer than 5 or 10 minutes and it's not that compelling, I'm probably not watching it. Curtis Photography. We are a body that is inside a spirit of measurable energy that extends way beyond our physical boundary. I'm there with you. I'm there with you on that. Yes. I know, David. I know. But seriously, I mean, I have books that I'm supposed to be reading. I can't even read. My life is so wall to wall that I barely have time to even read like books that I'm interested in reading. Citizen 69, exactly. The outing of Epstein was a small window into the depravity of the elite. Oh, dang, I guess we're just kind of going there, aren't we? Well, just to preface, I guess, and maybe we'll get in. I want to do a little more of a deep dive on this. I would like to. But I'm just going to say that the people, that were, it's really disheartening when people want to trash, the idea, the people that were researching Pizzagate and other pedophile stories. Epstein, is connected to everybody: Bill Gates, Trump, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, all kinds of people. Scientists. He was into, eugenics and trying to create like a master race, et cetera, et cetera. So, all the and all the evidence points to the facts that stuff is actually going on. And here's another reason why, why you should actually take this very seriously is because anytime any kind of stories like this come out or people start talking about it, the powers that be, the media, whatever platform you might be on, they push back very, very hard. They do not like people talking about this or bringing this up or bringing this into mainstream consciousness. They do not like it. They absolutely hate it, and they will go to any length to cover it up and to keep it quiet. Raza Redmond, so was he murdered or self-murdered? No, he definitely was not self-murdered. Definitely was not. I don't think anybody believes that story for one moment. David Cardill, exactly. One of the royal family members rode the Lolita Express and now has to leave England. He and his wife are moving to Canada. Yep. Witty moniker, the world is a weird place. Indeed. Anthony Gelbert, consciousness is separate from matter. Materialists cannot handle that fact, which has been scientifically proven. Yeah, we started off with some with a bit of a strange bipolar discussion about state of consciousness and people on the planet. All right, thanks, D Ranch. Enjoy your day. I hope you get out planning. I actually did some planning myself 2 days ago. I'm hopefully trying to do some more today. And trying to get my gardening going. So anyways, let's get into some, where are we? This is not what I wanted to. Let's get into some climate change discussion, and we'll bring it back around to something else. This is from The Conversation, which I like the title of this, conversation.com. The age of stability is over, and coronavirus is just the beginning. Conversation within a conversation. Humanity has only recently become accustomed to a stable climate. This may be a lot of review for most of you, of course. It is. For most of history, long ice ages punctuated with hot spells, alternated with short warm periods. Transitions from cold to warm climates were especially chaotic. Then about 10,000 years ago, the Earth suddenly entered into a period of climate stability modern humans had never seen before, but thanks to ever-accelerating emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Humanity is now bringing this period to an end. Did I read the title of this? The age of stability is over and coronavirus is just the beginning. I think I did. I can't remember what I just read. The loss of stability could be disastrous. If the coronavirus pandemic can teach us anything about the climate crisis, it is this. Our modern interconnected global economy is much more vulnerable than we thought, and we must urgently become more resilient and better prepared for the unknown. After all, stable climate underpins much of modern civilization. About half of humanity depends on stable monsoon rains for food production. Many agricultural plants need a certain temperature. Temperature variations within a year to produce a stable crop, and heat stress can damage them greatly. We rely on intact glaciers or healthy forest soils to store water for the dry season. Heavy rains and storms can wipe out the infrastructure of whole regions. These are the sorts of climate impacts that we know about and have been extensively studied by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, but the biggest risk may yet come from climate-related chaos that we did not expect. Impossible heat waves in consecutive years. In 2018, a prolonged heat wave and drought hit much of Western and Northern Europe and decimated much of the potato harvest in the region. Temperatures in my native Germany reached record highs in a summer that was drier and hotter than in many parts of the Mediterranean. Climate models have predicted Europe's most extreme heat increases would occur in Greece, Turkey, and Ukraine, so the odds of such a heat wave seemed impossibly low. Only one year on, in 2019, Western Europe was struck by another impossible heat wave. Oh, of course. But aren't we seeing this more and more? I mean, isn't this just a general pattern? Especially in the last 5 years. I'd say in the last 5 years, we have these, 500-year, 1,000-year events, droughts, floods, wildfires, etc., hurricanes, every single year now. So, the old models or the old measurements are out the window. Even in the Netherlands, known for its cool sea breeze, even at peak summer, peak temperatures exceeded a searing 39 C. Huge wildfires arrived decades early, faster than expected. A large part of Australia's forests are concentrated in the southeast of the country. This valuable ecosystem evolved with fire and thus is supposed to burn frequently. In these natural fires, typically 1 to 2% of the area is consumed by flames. Wildfire and climate models, including one I worked on myself, did predict a large increase in bush fire activity in the forests of Southeast Australia. Excuse me. But they predicted this would happen towards the end of the century. The model certainly did not foresee the megafires wiping out as much as 20% of these forests would strike as early as 2020. Hello, the future is now. Locusts are a climate crisis. In the long term, the IPCC predicts crop yields will decrease by around 10% or more. In the long term, really. How long of a term are they talking about? Do they mean like long term, like, say in the next year? Or are they talking about, a decade? Or are they talking about a century? What are they talking about? What are you saying, IPCC? Please explain yourself. At the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, the Arabian Peninsula experienced much wetter weather than normal, likely owed to ocean warming. This created conditions that enabled numbers of desert locusts to explode. This unusual event was followed by another. a storm that shifted most of this locust army, now several hundred million strong, to East Africa. In Kenya, it became the worst such outbreak for more than 70 years. With the rainy season just arrived and seeds sown for the next cropping season, it is now feared that continued breeding of the locust will create a second wave that will be far worse than the first one. Climate scientists tend to focus on slow changes with their climate predictions, with their conservative climate predictions. But how much the weather becomes more chaotic is notoriously difficult to predict. With climate models, we also have only a very superficial understanding of how vulnerable our modern society is to climate chaos and unexpected climate-related events. Instead of seeing the climate problem as one felt by the next generations, we need to start focusing on what could happen tomorrow or next year. To do that, we must better understand, appreciate, and acknowledge the vulnerability of modern society and address this vulnerability at its core. Yes. Yes, of course. Of course we do. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Kuro Hike says vegan is the answer. I don't know if it's the answer. I think it's an answer, one answer. Yeah, I mean, I think it encompasses all those things. Reducing suffering in a world with a surplus of suffering, sure. Years ago there was what was the diet that was like all meat? Does anybody remember this diet that was popular about 15 years ago? Was it the Atkins diet? I don't remember the name of it. Anyways, this diet was all the rage, and it was like mostly meat. It was a lot of meat, heavy on the meat. And they were saying that all the meat intake was making people angry or violent. It was having an effect on people's, moods and actions. It was so. I always thought that was an interesting thing, and I wonder if the world were more vegan, if there were more vegans in the world, how much that might impact, people's general mood and also their, actions. Would people become less violent creatures? I wonder. Thank you, Atkins. Yes, everybody, you all knew what I was talking about. Kuro Hikes, thanks for the super chat. Veganism is the answer if you on the menu. Yeah. So I mean, I know that there have been, I'm sure there are people that are, I used to hang out with vegetarian drug addicts, so I'm sure there are plenty of vegetarians and vegans who, are in jail for violent crimes, but they're probably very, very few. I'm gonna have to go out on a limb and just guess that there are very few. Kira Hikes, thanks for the super chat. Veganism is not a diet, it's mercy and decency. This is also true, and I agree with that. I myself am a vegetarian. I'm not full vegan. Actually, just because of how my body reacted to being full on vegan was not necessarily very good. But I am vegetarian. I do not eat meat. I've been vegetarian for a long time. Citizen 69. COVID lockdown makes me angry. Yes, it's making a lot of people angry. Jazz Farm says veganism is absolutely not the answer. Well, I don't know if it's the answer. I'm saying it's one answer. It's an answer. It's one of many answers. At least to the climate crisis. Judy Truitt says can't be vegan, love cheese and eggs too much. I also love cheese and eggs. I also, for whatever, I think that people have different physiological makeups. So, everybody, everybody responds to different things. Everybody's body is different. Some people thrive on veganism. Some people thrive on different diets. So it's just the way that you're set up. The way my body is set up, like I thrive as a vegetarian. I do not thrive as a vegan. At least not yet. I haven't figured out a way to feel, like weird things weren't happening to me while I was being vegan. Kuro Hikes, thank you for the super chat. Super chats, I have a teardrop on my face. I feel you. Everyone can learn. Everyone can be forgiven. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that. I mean, people find them, what leads people into situations like that, I think, or anyone can find themselves in a situation where all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, how did I end up here? Gene, thank you. Gene says, I will send Kevin the research on environment. I don't need the research on environmental impacts of animal farming. I already know. You don't need to send me that. I already know. I've watched many, many documentaries. I've read many, many articles. I understand. I know. I understand that animal agriculture is very damaging to the planet. But even more, animal agricultural, consumption of animals agriculture is, next level compared to, I know that, chickens that are bred for eggs and cows for milk are not treated very well. And that they also contribute to the climate crisis. But, raising an animal to use their byproducts rather than to eat them are two different things. Kuro Hikes, thank you for the super chat. It's not about you, it's about everyone else, including the animals. If I died 10 years early being vegan, it's worth it. Yeah, but I mean, it's just like functional. I mean, like, literally, like there was stuff going on with me that was not good. And I'm not really, I'm not down for dying right now or anytime in the near future. Just to be vegan. I'm not, I like being alive and I like to function. However, I here's the thing. I completely encourage people to be vegan or, be as conscious about ingesting animal products as possible. I will probably, I go back and forth. I've gone back and forth with being vegan and vegetarian, but I've been vegetarian for a really long time. Since, I don't know, 2003 or 4 or whatever. So, for a while. I haven't ingested any animal meat. Anyways, so let's move on. But I agree that veganism is, kinder to the planet. Absolutely, on all levels. So I'm with you. And I agree with you, Kuro. I agree that we should not suffer. Interestingly, so I had a friend who was a Buddhist doctor. And he was a vegetarian, basically vegan, but he was like, if you live, he said, every once in a while I eat a steak because I generally live in cities that are very hectic, and the stress of living in the cities drains your adrenal gland. So his theory was that, you need a little meat every once in a while to re-establish your adrenal gland. I don't know if that's true. Anyways, food for thought. Matt Angiano, vegetarian is just as bad from an ethics perspective in some ways, not necessarily the environment. In some ways worse? I don't know. Witty moniker, animals can be raised without suffering. It just can't be done large scale. Yeah, I mean, I support vegetarianism. I support veganism. I think that, I think that's the way to go. I think that's a positive way to go. However, I don't necessarily, I don't shame people for eating meat. I understand that, everybody is doing their thing, but veganism is a thing in Los Angeles. I mean, like every single restaurant has a vegan menu. There are so many vegan restaurants in Los Angeles. They're starting to probably, it's like regular restaurants or meat, serving restaurants and vegan restaurants. They're probably like even right now. There are so many vegan restaurants in Los Angeles. Exactly. All right. Well, let's move on, guys, to so. Well, let's go back to this. Have another climate change story. This is from today in CNN, in the CNN health section. This is kind of, again, a recap on things we already know. Parts of North America are in a mega drought with their driest years since the 1500s. It could get worse. The past 2 decades have marked the driest years in southwestern North America since the 1500s, a new study finds, and it could get even worse. The mega drought that began in 2000 led to the driest 19-year span since the late 1500s, according to the study published this week in the journal Science, and the second driest period since the year 800. Before that, the region had seen its wettest period in 1,200 years, with increased precipitation from 1980 to 1998, the study says. Hold on. 1 second, let me check this. Okay. The transitions from such wet conditions to such dry conditions was hastened by the background drying forced from anthropogenic warming, the study says. In other words, blame the human-caused climate crisis. And that's not the worst part. The megadroughts could get worse. Not could. See, could being the word in question in that sentence. Will is actually the word you want to use there. Anthropogenic global warming and its drying influence in southwestern North America are likely still in their infancy, the study warns. The magnitude of future droughts in North America and elsewhere will depend greatly on future rates of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions globally. So unless society reduces greenhouse gas emissions, these droughts are just the beginning. The effects of future droughts on humans will be further dependent on sustainable resource use because buffering mechanisms such as groundwater and reservoir storage are at risk of being depleted during dry times. The study continues. The findings are consistent with past research. Last year, another study published in Nature also found that humans were to blame for droughts and that they will continue to worsen. The human consequences of this, particularly drying over large parts of North America and Eurasia, are likely to be severe. That 2019 study concluded, predicting many more droughts. The U.S. is the world's second largest contributor of planet warming gases through the country's greenhouse gas emissions, though the country's greenhouse gas emissions dropped an estimated 2.1% in 2019. Again, welcome to the future, and the future is now. Kuro Hikes, thank you for the super chat. Kevin, I will defend you and your safety the same as any person or any animal. You have a friend in me. Thank you. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you. And the same goes for me with anyone who is a friend of mine. And even anyone who is not a friend of mine. I will defend you. Unless you're trying to kill me. Then I will not. Raza Remen, cultivate mushrooms. We can survive in a cave. Zion. Matt Angiano, I'm totally with you. There's no humane slaughter, not when animals want to live. Humane means compassionate. I'm with you. Judy Truitt, I live in the Southwest, and this year is the greenest I have seen it in over 30 years living here. Well, we had a lot of rain. So yeah, it's very green right now, but we're also getting like faster droughts or flash droughts. I've noticed this in Los Angeles over the last 3 or 4 years. We've had very rainy winters and very warm summers, and everything just dries out very quickly. The trees are still dying from the top down. I'm noticing in my neighborhood. They're still going. So let's move on. Let's see, where are we? So a lot of people have decided that they're not going to vote for Biden or Trump, and they want a better option. And what happened in 2016 was everybody kind of moved. When Bernie dropped out, and kind of left people with a particular moral compass with no one to hang their hopes on, they migrated to the Green Party and backing Jill Stein. Well, this year, there's a man named Howie Hawkins is the Green Party candidate for president. So a lot of people have already started to look into the Green Party. They've decided they're going to back the Green Party, that's the party that represents them better than, Biden or Trump. Interestingly, Howie Hawkins was banned from Twitter recently for the second time. So, Trump is tweeting all kinds of stuff, that angers some and makes other people happy. But, free speech is alive for some people on Twitter and not alive for other people. As I mentioned yesterday, Zero Hedge was banned from Twitter for, bringing up something about the coronavirus being a biological weapon. Oh, you're banned. Oh, wait, hold on. Washington Post just published something saying that it could be a biological weapon. Oh, did they reinstate Zero Hedge? Did they say, I'm sorry? Probably not. I'm doubting that they did. So there's, everybody's kind of looking at the Howie Hawkins campaign as a place where they can vote their conscience. And he was recently suspended, apparently, for impersonating himself. That's the reason they gave. A little bit weird. But if you're interested in voting green, that is who the presidential nominee is for the Green Party. Muzza, what's going on? How you doing? All right, you're in. Um, Rich Diana, huzzah, huzzah. Um, Anthony Gilbert, Green Party is it. The fascist jackals will try to keep them off the ballot. Oh, yeah. They're going to, they're seeing already that everybody's going. Everybody's moving out. They're not going to support Biden. And, they're going to do all that they can to suppress the Green Party now because the Green Party looks like the obvious choice of, people who were former Bernie supporters. Am I going to vote for the Green Party? I don't know. It's likely, but I'm not totally decided yet. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm definitely not voting Biden or Trump. So, those choices are not for me. And I'm generally not a stay at home and not vote for anybody kind of person. Most likely I will vote Green. Exactly. Jacob Gordon just stopped voting for the candidates associated with the DNC and the GOP. Exactly. I'm Sweetleaf says, writing in Bernie because he is an asshole who took it away from Howie in the first place. I don't know. I don't understand that. Anyways, I did Jill in 2016. Only maybe I'll do Howie, but I'd like to force Bernie to be POTUS by a popular vote. You're going to force Bernie to be... Even if he was like, no, we got to vote for Joe Biden. I think you're joking. I'd like to force Bernie to be POTUS by popular vote. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not really... I'm feeling actually pretty dumb about being so supportive of Bernie. But hey, I had hopes, and I thought, hey, you know what? I'm gonna live in this world, this land of hope, for a little while, and back Bernie Sanders. And now I'm feeling a little bit like a dupe, But that, hey, that's what happens. You have hopes. You try your best, you do your best, you wish for the best, and sometimes your hopes are dashed, and then you got to be like, ooh, ouch, shouldn't have done that. But Bernie did everyone a dirty by taking away the opportunity for another candidate to take a stand. Yeah. The thing is that people who are really taking, candidates like Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, they absolutely crushed her from the beginning. They didn't even allow her to get a foothold. You knew who the real enemy was by the way that they treated Tulsi Gabbard. They were absolutely terrified of her being on a debate stage. They were absolutely terrified of people hearing her message. And not only did they keep her off the debate stage, they smeared her relentlessly. And, of course, the stupid, sheep people of the world were like, oh, yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, she's a Russian bot, and she likes Modi, and she's cozying up to fascists, and blah, just repeated that garbage that CNN pushed into everybody's brains. But, yeah, I'm not, thank you, Anthony Gilbert. Well said, Kevin. Don't let the Democratic sheepdogs blame and shame us into voting the corrupt status quo. Absolutely not. There is no shame. Vote blue no matter who is actually a vote for continued corruption, and I'm just not there with you on that. So, if that's your gig, fine. But enjoy Trump. All I gotta say is enjoy Trump. You should have picked better. You should have demanded better. You did not, and that's what you get. You should have done a little more studying. You should have, listened to others when they tried to tell you this is not the way to go. You should have maybe understood that the DNC was in the bag for Biden, and that they were doing everything they could to squash the progressive vote. You should have called out the corruption of the DNC, but, most people are like, no, it's fine. We still love them and we'll vote for them, even though they're corrupt pieces of shit. Um, exactly. Yeah, DNC works with the GOP. Exactly. They don't care if Trump is president. They really actually don't care if Trump is president. What they really care about is keeping Bernie or Tulsi or somebody progressive out of the presidency. That's actually what they're really worried about. They really are not worried about Trump at all because they support everything that he does. And they only resist in, in words, really, strong words that mean nothing. Yeah, exactly. Basil Peterson, boom. Bernie called Trump a racist sexual predator while endorsing one. And that is all you need to know. So, fuck him. Fuck him. And I don't know, I don't know what else to say. Very interesting story out of the UK. And, on the subject of the corrupt DNC, what's coming out of the Labour Party 3 years later. Does this sound familiar to you? The party's own senior staff acted to keep Corbyn out of power. So, my God, it's not just the US, but other countries are working from within their own parties to keep progressive leaders out of office and out of power because they are beholden to the corporate class. And now in the UK, you have a situation where, Labour is only different from the Tories, in name only. It's kind of the same thing. It's almost a mirror of the US, and that the supposed liberal party is not very liberal. They're just a corporate party with a lot of like liberal verbiage around their platform. But other than that, they're pretty much the same shit. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to really read a lot of this just because it's depressing as shit. In the UK general election, Labour under Jeremy Corbyn came within a whisker of power. 2,227 votes had gone the other way. If that would have been won by Labour, that would have put Corbyn in a strong position to lead a coalition government. A leaked internal Labour report now reveals that the senior Labour figures were actively trying to stop Labour winning the general election in order to oust Corbyn as a party leader. Jesus Christ. So effectively, this just makes Labour, a non-entity in the UK. They're not a party anymore. They don't stand for anything. Just like the Democratic Party doesn't stand for shit. Other than, convincing people that somehow they're different than the GOP. Labour doesn't stand for shit other than trying to somehow convince people that they're any different than the Tories. Just absolutely ridiculous. Wow, that's interesting. Happy Wanderer says, on a side note, Trump is tweeting for an uprising to save the Second Amendment. Also, he said he's going to shut down both the Senate and the House. Well, you know what? Here's an interesting thing to think about. I don't know if you all thought about it. Everybody's worried about martial law. Exactly. Keith Hayes, a global uni-party of the privileged. Everybody's worried about martial law. And somehow, Trump, the scary fascist, is going to institute martial law. But he's actually doing the exact opposite of going in that direction, right? We have these mandatory lockdowns and, people are worried about, rightly so, the abuse of power and locking people down and getting people to comply. And what that looks like, or how that might play out. But Trump is actually going in the opposite direction of martial law. He's like, no, let's open up let's stop the lockdowns. Let's open this up. Let's, and obviously, this is not a good idea because we're in the middle of a pandemic. For the most part, everybody agrees this is not a good idea. But if you're worried that Trump is going to usher in martial law, if you're worried that Trump is, the fascist that's going to usher in martial law and lock everybody up or lock everybody down, he's actually doing the exact opposite of that. So, it's, how he's handling the pandemic and the response to the coronavirus is definitely questionable. Definitely questionable. But the idea that he's fully against this lockdown, to the chagrin of everyone else, is an interesting wrinkle in this whole thing. Basil Peterson, Trump wants to shut down the government so he can continue to appoint judges. Well, yeah, that may be true. And so there might be his insistence on or his threat to shut down the Congress is an interesting wrinkle as well. What does that actually mean? Or is this, is he inciting some kind of revolutionary action? Is he allowing himself to gain more power by inciting, by claiming a revolutionary action or defense of the Second Amendment? I don't know. Basil Peterson, this will not end well, my friends. Get your affairs in order. Yeah, well, if we see, states openly resisting Trump and his orders or lack of orders, we say California already stating something like it's a nation state. Where does this go? But you have people in Michigan and Ohio saying like fuck this lockdown and we're not doing it. Okay, people are people are rightly up in arms about that and wondering what the hell is going on with that. And Trump is tweeting like crazy. He's like, stuff like free Michigan and free Ohio. It's like free, I don't know. It's crazy. Osama number 5. Suppose you are an idiot and suppose you are a member of Congress, but I repeat myself. Again, if we see this escalate, the situation, that raises questions about what's truly, what is really going on. What's the end game and who is behind what? I'm Sweetleaf. Okay, so I agree with you. Trump is reverse psychology for the masses to maintain a false equivalence recommended by AI to follow the course. Very interesting. Very interesting idea because that's kind of what I've been thinking has been going along, on with Trump, is that Trump represents this anti-establishment feeling or impulse in the American people, and that's why people support him and just blindly support him so heavily, is because he's always seen as this anti-establishment figure, even though he is the president and he's for the most part giving the corporate state and the oligarchy everything that they want. But he's all of his moves still look like. And that's, I'm sure, a reason behind the Q movement is to make it seem like Trump is part of this anti-establishment movement, right? And he's actually in there trying to drain the swamp or do, something against the deep state, etc. And all of this is kabuki theater. So yes, Trump is reverse psychology for the masses. Exactly. He's he's the exactly. Basil Peterson. Thanks for the super chat, Basil. What borders on stupidity? Mexico and Canada. Thanks, Cindy. I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your day. Keith Hayes, Trump is a political equivalent of worldwide wrestling in sports. Yeah, I don't, I mean, it's confusing as shit on some levels. On other levels, it's pretty obvious that he's just, he's a puppet of the oligarchy and he's a puppet of the military-industrial complex. And so, he's doing, for the most part, their bidding. Not necessarily every single thing that they suggest or push, but for the most part, he's doing their bidding. And that brings me to another interesting article. So there's this big claim about Trump firing the entire pandemic response team. And there was a fact check in Reuters. They're basically saying this is kind of false. This whole well, if you didn't fire this team, we wouldn't be in this mess. Well, what happened was he disbanded the team, and some of the people that were in the team, basically there was a redundancy. There were several agencies that had fulfilled the same function as pandemic preparedness. So they broke up this this agency or this collective of people who were working on pandemic response, and they were absorbed into other things. So anyways, it's an interesting thing. So there, this is again more left-right propaganda wars, because the left and the Democratic Party are like, oh, if you didn't do this, then we wouldn't be in this problem. Of course, this is all we need to know, and that our response is lacking, to say the least. The number of cases is, more than triple that of any other country in the U.S. The number of deaths is far surpassing any other country, or about.
I can still see it. What could you possibly be saying to her? Be still, my child, while I absorb your precious life source. It's apparently a Senate rite of passage. You're not officially sworn in until Delaware Joe has felt up one female member of your immediate family.
So yeah, there you go. Jon Stewart, that crazy right-winger, doing a story on Joe Biden and his weird touchy-feely ways. So this was a thing. This has been a thing for a really long time. I'm guessing, I don't know what year this was. I'm guessing this was, probably 8 years ago, more, decade ago. He's been off the air for a really long time. So yeah, I want to talk. I'd like to talk more about this weird, the ring that encircles the elite, that they somehow seem to all believe or all be involved in this stuff that is not just troubling or disturbing. It's downright disgusting and, on many levels evil. Anthony Gelbert, Kevin, we know the video you showed of Biden's evil, perverse behavior is 100% true. Well, yeah, many people do. But the thing is, somebody questioned whether it was real or not, probably because they think that it's some kind of right-wing thing going on. It is not. It is not. It is not a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's a well-known Jon Stewart, did a segment on it. It's a well-known thing around Joe Biden. It has been for a long time. Gene says Jon Stewart is a vegan and he and his wife rescue animals and teach. Jon Stewart is a pretty great dude, I have to say. Exactly. I miss Stewart immensely. Yes. One of the more, intelligent